Welcome back to Gunners R Us podcast, where we are positively Arsenal, and that we are. And this is a Patreon. This is the review. This is the preview of Arsenal's last game of the 25-26 Premier League season against Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park. And I'm going to be honest, if you're here for an in-depth preview, I don't think you're going to get it because, firstly, there's contributing factors. Arsenal have won the league. We have a Champions League final in 7 days from now. Crystal Palace can't go up, can't go down in the league. They have their biggest European final in 4 days. And then the last factor that's just been kind of added this week is there's a heat wave, especially in London, and Sunday's going to be the brunt of it. So we could be looking at two sets of reserves playing in heat. Players that maybe aren't completely up to match fitness now playing in 30-degree heat. So I don't know if it's worth previewing in the sense of the actual match because I really don't know. You know, we'll start with this. What is the lineup? If I had to guess, it's going to be Kepa. And there is two lines of thinking, and I think I'm really caught up in the middle, somewhere in between, which is, I think with goalies it's different, isn't it? I don't think you necessarily want them necessarily playing every 3 days. It's not like outfield players that kind of need to find that rhythm. But so maybe Raya does get a rest, and that'll probably be good, and feel fresh. But I mean, you do also want match kind of speed, and because we played 6 days ago, and we're not playing again for another 6 days after this. No one really needs a rest, but you're just so worried about injury. And saying that, I do remember Raya going down late. Is it Fleming that knocked him down? He was holding his back during the celebrations and stuff. So I wonder if, I've taught myself into it. Kepa will be starting. I would love to see Timber starting right back. I don't think we'll get that. Could we get some minutes out of him? I don't know. I'm hoping he's at least on the bench and we get 10-15 at the end, and maybe that's enough to them to go, he can start the final, but he can't play more than like 55-60 minutes, but we need the best 60 minutes he's got in those legs. But I would say chances are we're getting Mosquera right back. I think we'll get... This is where it gets interesting, isn't it? Because I think in the past, you could always name almost like that team that doesn't play. But everyone in this team has contributed this year, so it's really hard to see. There's no real deadwood. I don't know how to explain it. There's no real... you used to throw in like Holding and Chambers in these games, you know what I mean? And you knew that if it was, Koscielny and Mertesacker, let's say, there'd be like a Monreal that would probably play a centre-back if either of them were unfit. We wouldn't just jump to Holding and Chambers unless of a catastrophe. But these games, that's what you do. Whereas our centre-half depth is Saliba Gabriel, it's Mosquera, then it's Ben White, Timber, Hincapié, Calafiori. But they're all our fullbacks. But they're also centre-backs. And not just that, none of them don't play. So you end up with a situation where maybe Mosquera plays centre-back with Norgard. And then you bring in Salmon. And then maybe left-back you do give it to maybe, you would say 3 weeks ago we'd say Lewis Skelly. But I don't know if he plays midfield in this game. I also don't know if he starts the final. So, if we're resting other players, is it not worth resting him? So it's going to be interesting who that back line is. And also, I think that's taken the mick a little bit. I think if you played, let's say it was Sam and Mosquera, Norgard and Josh Nichols, for example. I think if you did that with Kepa, I think that is taking the mick a little bit, but I think we'd all be petrified if we saw Saliba and Gabriel. I think Raya, Saliba, Gabriel, Rice don't need to play. I would like to see Rice for maybe 10 minutes at the end just to get some blood into his legs and so he can kind of finish the game in which we pick up the trophy, but I don't think it matters. And I think we're playing in our third kit. We're changing into our first kit to lift the trophy because we've got that hour wait. But an hour wait could be a problem for our friend Kyle at work who listens to the show. So shout out Kyle, and he's got a big gig this weekend. He hits the stage at 7. These games are 4 o'clock, so they'll be done by what, 10 to 6, 5 to 6 maybe. Then we've got the hour wait before Arsenal come out and go get the trophy. So it'll be interesting time wise. I told him he should have a laptop on the stage, but yeah. So you kind of want that, but also there's another part of me that's thinking, you're getting a guard of honour. So it'd be odd if, Josh Nichols and his schoolmates go and get that guard of honour by Crystal Palace. And I know that it's not exactly going to be Wharton and Mateta doing that guard of honour, nor does it really matter to us who's in their guard of honour. But it feels like a special moment. I mean, you get one, some of these players, this might be the one guard of honour they get. I think, if I remember correctly, you get one at your first home game next season. So I'm hoping they give that to Tottenham or someone next year. I hope opening days against Tottenham, if they're still in the league, and they have to give us a guard of honour. That'd be nice, or someone at least in me. Do you know who I'd quite like it to be? Aston Villa. I'd like them because I think they've been so problematic to us this year. So I'd quite like to see them have to give us a guard of honour. But as for this one, yeah, it seems odd because you kind of want our team to get that, but you also do not want injury. And is there a way they can play in second gear and they don't extend themselves? Yeah, but do I think Palace are going to be flying into tackles? No. So you do kind of get caught. It'll probably be the kind of team that we put up against, I want to say Macclesfield and not Mansfield, but and Grimsby. Some of those teams. I wonder if it will be kind of similar to that team. But it does feel odd because, for example, we don't know, but he might have his Champions League starting lineup in his mind. And it might be, and this is what I was thinking this week, who would I like it to be? I want it to be that team he had the hot hand with a few weeks ago that kind of got us over the line. And if it's not White or Timber, it's just Mosquera, but everything else stays the same. So you've got Reyes, Saliba, Gabriel, Mosquera, and or Timber, Calafiori, Rice, Lewis Skelly, Eza, Gyökeres, Saka, Trossard. That's the team I want to start the Champions League. And you just go for it. We've got nothing to lose. The pressure's off. We've won the league. That's the team I'd like. But this team that he plays this week will be very, quite informative, I think. Because, for example, we're saying, who can we put in our back line? But we're trying to avoid using Saliba, Gabriel, Hincapié, Calafiori, Lewis Skelly. He might have no interest in using Lewis Skelly or Calafiori in that final, or Hincapié. So those guys will play, and I wouldn't mind seeing Mosquera and Hincapié as the centre-backs. But then you would have to play Calafiori, and with his injury record, do we really want him playing 7 days out? And his backup is Hincapié, who's also playing. And then let's say his other backup, the worst case scenario, is Lewis Skelly, who could also be in the midfield. So it is tough. As for the midfield, I think I would go Norgard holding, Zubimendi slightly higher, like when he kind of moved. Do you remember he started to move just before he brought Lewis Skelly, and he moved Rice backwards and Zubimendi a bit higher, and we kind of got a lot better out of Zubimendi. And I don't want to kind of jump on the Zubimendi train of not been good, because I think up until February I think he was the signing of the summer, and I dare say I still think he might be, but he just fatigued. We didn't find a solution. He didn't trust Norgard, he didn't trust Lewis Skelly early in the season, and Zubimendi and Rice had to play every game. If he'd found this Lewis Skelly situation in December or January, I think we'd be still getting the best out of Zubimendi. It's just a shame that he might miss out on things like Champions League finals and that, or starting them at least. But I'm sure he's happy. He's got a league title. And but that midfield, yeah, I'd like to see Norgard. If Moreno's in training, I wouldn't mind seeing Norgard, Zubimendi and Moreno. And I don't think that's the funnest midfield you'll ever see. I don't think it's the most creative. I don't think it's much going on there. But maybe you get Norgard, Zubimendi, Max Dowman in the 10. And then you play Madueke on the right, Martinelli on the left, and then it'll be Jesus down the middle. I'd like to see Gyökeres in this game if he's not going to start the final, because it is the Premier League. There is still goals to be got and things like that. So, but I think Jesus deserves his moment, because I think when you look back, I think there's honorary mentions, and a lot of them have kind of passed us by now. And I saw Arscast got asked a question that was kind of, who's invited? Who's the 11 you would invite to get a medal? Because they kind of were a part of this. If you can make a starting 11 of a team that deserve this Premier League medal because they were kind of a part of the process, but this happened to fall to the wayside before the moment. And for me, I think Aaron Ramsdale in goal, Tomiyasu right back, I think Kieran Tierney left back. I think I'd definitely put Rob Holding in the middle there because I think he took a lot of stick when he was just doing his best, essentially, at some point in there. Kiwior just, he's won a league title himself, but I think Kiwior. The midfield, immediately my mind goes to Granit Xhaka. I think him and Ramsdale might be the ultimates. I would finally place Zinchenko in the position we were asked for him to. Lewis Skelly 2.0 here, but Zinchenko in the midfield. The 10 would be Emil Smith-Rowe. On the left, I would play Nelson. Nelson on the left. On the right, I don't know yet, but down the middle, I would play Eddie Nketiah. And on the right, it's so tough. There's a lot that, a couple names that kind of spring to mind. Definitely not Sterling, or Willian, but Nicolas Pepe, weirdly. I don't know. I think he was so unfairly treated. I really think back to that. And you think of the production of wingers now when you look at Madueke's season, when you look at even Saka's this season, and, he's missed a lot of games. And you look across the board, and we're, this year, for example, people are saying, how's Madueke made the plane when Jared Bowen got 18 goals or assists in all comps? Pepe in his worst season got 22 goals and assists for Arsenal. And he was completely destroyed he was rotten, poor, bad for the money, all that kind of stuff. And I think at that point, maybe 75 million feels more like 110 million. So it's like a Garnacho, but not Garnacho, but like when you think of players like Garnacho and Wirtz and these guys now, they dream of getting 22 goals and assists in all comps. So someone like that, I think, and he's right at the start of the Arteta run. I don't think he was a massive part of it, and he pretty much went straight away. And you could think of like Aubameyang, Lacazette, and players like that, but that's the 11 I would pick. Personally, I'd love to hear what other people's opinions are. But it does feel that there's a few things up in the air. Like I said, our depth is, usually your depth's hidden under like the bark. You pull it back, the woodlouse are there. That's the depth. Sometimes you got to pull those woodlouse out. I just think like now everything's on show. The depth play every week. And when Arsenal put up these unbelievable content, the content just keeps coming, and it's going to restart on Sunday, and it's going to start again on the build up to the Champions League, and then the parade, or if we do win the Champions League, obviously it'll go nuts, but the parade will then create another load, and then we'll settle into the World Cup. But they put up one, and it showed like key moments this year, and it feels like that 11. Remember 11 I just mentioned that had the hot hand a few weeks ago and kind of got us over the line. Imagine that's the 11 here. That's the 11 we might remember for the year, even though it's not necessarily fair on people like Zubimendi and others, Odegaard, Havertz, and the like. But when you think of that 11, and then they were showing key moments throughout the season in all competitions, and you were seeing those like unbelievable goals by Madueke in the Champions League, and you see Martinelli scoring his one league goal this year was against Man City late on, that lob over Donnarumma. That's the difference between us winning the league or not this year. If he doesn't score that, we're 1 point worse off. They're 3 points better off. Or 2 points better off, sorry. And that would have them, right behind us, right? That would be, if they draw on that, they would have been winning going into that game. So they might have had a different motivation. But that is the difference. And that was that one goal he scored, but it was so vital. And then you think of Big Gabby at Newcastle, that late goal. There's all these things that kind of flash into your brain, and they're all around the pitch. You think of Timber's brace, you think of Zubimendi's brace, Lewis Skelly coming in and changing it, Norgaard's performances in the FA Cup, Eze and Odegaard both interchanging throughout the season. You think of Trossard, obviously, massive goal at West Ham will probably be the one that everyone remembers, but he's had a good season, okay season, not his best season, but he's come into life at the end here. Saka away at Brighton, there's a huge moment there. Gyökeres, his goals have carried us at times. He's got better as the season's gone on. We saw the best of him by the end. Havertz, huge goal. Won us the league essentially against Burnley the other day. But then there's also goals by like Jesus late on in games. He's really, when you look at that squad, I think if they're not youth, they're they're the backups. When you think of backups, we were thinking of Hincapi, but is he a backup or is he the first choice? I don't know. A lot of these players feel like that. The only one that I think is like an oddball in this whole squad is Jesus, and he is kind of like the ghost of like the relics past of the Ramsdale Zinchenko era that really actually turned the screw and changed it for Arsenal. So I'm so glad he's there to get it. It's his 5th title as well, which is a real achievement when he's all said and done. I mean, he's got some trophies there, including his Man City run. But he's the only one that kind of feels like a little bit further than just rotation. He's like, and I don't want to use the word deadwood, but he feels like someone who was kind of outcast a little bit. But he's actually come in and played massive moments and actually contributed. And that's what I mean. This squad is just contributed all season. So it's really hard to see the kind of wood through the trees with who's actually going to play this Palace game. That's why it's so hard to preview. I don't know who Palace are going to put out. There's a very big chance that we're going to see almost 2 youth sides, because Palace really don't have to even worry about the media scrutiny of them playing a weakened side anymore. They got injuries last week when they kind of tried to play some first team guys because they got, again, kind of chewed out by the media. And it's all going to be skewed. Like the whole season's a little bit skewed by this last season. Luckily, there's nothing to play for except, obviously, the Tottenham West Ham situation. And ironically, there's 9 outcomes of that game, of the 2 games. Tottenham at home to Everton, where they're not very good, and Moyes obviously to try and help out West Ham. West Ham at home to Leeds, who picked up a lot of injuries last week and the week before, and very much can't do anything now, but they've had an unbelievable season. That's the only outcome. Everton win, West Ham win. That means Tottenham go down and West Ham stay up. Every other one, where one draws, one wins, both draw, both lose, whatever it is, both win. Whatever it works out, it's always in Spurs' favour. So that's an exciting kind of end it to the season. And luckily, other than Leeds or Everton being on the beach already, nothing could be skewed. Also, Bournemouth could make Champions League if I think Liverpool beat Brentford and Bournemouth win their game and something else happens. I think City have to beat Villa, which, seeing Aston Villa in the press conference, they look so hungover. You're again going to get potentially, that could be 7-0, could be 8-0, could be Haaland breaking a record. Because it's Pep's last day, so they actually do have a reason to put out their full strength team, and they have no reason not to just go, let's go try and hammer 9 in Pep's last game. And Villa couldn't care less. It really doesn't matter to them. They're in the Champions League, they've won a trophy, they're hungover, they don't need to extend themselves. It's players like Rodgers and Konza and that who are going away to the World Cup with England that I'm sure Tuchel said, you don't need to play them, right? So it's such a weird weekend, because even though there's still Champions League spots up for grabs and Conference League spots and that one relegation situation, a lot of these games are kind of null and void. They're kind of there just to mess with the books a little bit, because you get that there's an argument out there that how good Doku is and how poor Madueke is, and Doku's had a good season. I think he's got 21 goals and assists in all comps, which is very good. But he had 2 Premier League goals up until 2 weeks ago before he scored 3 and 2. He's now got 5. Madueke's only got the 2 in the Premier League, but I think he's got 7, I want to say, or 5. He's got 12 goals and assists in all comps. But you just think, like, these weeks can easily destroy that kind of concept of eye test and stats and stuff like that, because Madueke could start this game and it could be legitimately Palace's second string. Scores that trick and everyone goes, oh, he had a better season than Doku in the league. And you go, was he better than Doku? Like, these are the reason these types of kind of debates are so bizarre, because you get weeks like this every year. And in 10 years, if Thiago, let's say he doesn't score this week, but he could have won the Golden Boot because he's backed by quite a few. But Haaland scores 7. Everyone's going to remember Haaland scoring 30 plus goals again, and everyone's not going to remember the fact that he went against the hungover Villa side who weren't trying, and it was Pep's last game. And sometimes these things just look mad. And for me, I think Arsenal got to look at that, and I think someone like Gyökeres would take confidence. Touch wood, he's someone that doesn't necessarily carry a lot of injuries. I don't want him playing 90 minutes, but I mean 55, 60 minutes. Let Jesus have the last 40 in an Arsenal shirt, 35 in an Arsenal shirt with injury time. Hopefully gets a goal. He's obviously very good against Palace. I think we remember that kind of the way this project really kicked into life was that away to Palace first day of the season, that first year we competed and we didn't expect to. And Jesus just picking the ball out of the air on his chest and like fighting people off. And he also scored back to back. Was it back to back hat tricks or 5 goals in 3 days against them or something before he tore his ACL again? But he has very good form against Palace, so I very much expect him to probably play the majority. But you do think that, you think, could Madueke play himself into very good form? Could Gyökeres, get that kind of that golden touch right before a perfect moment? And I think in hindsight, I think we'll understand a lot more about the selection once we see the Champions League starting lineup. As for injuries, I think we've got a clean bill except for Timber. I believe at this point, I think Moreno is training and available. They don't know about Timber yet. So we're pretty close to, being able to lock in and really try something here, which is so exciting because this is the time where you want everyone fit. Ben White is obviously the other one, but that'll be longer term. So we're playing Palace, Selhurst Park. I think what we're all actually there for is simply to see lifting the trophy, because we were worried it wasn't going to be iconic because we weren't playing and things like that. And I don't think we were worried about it. I think we'd just take anything. But it felt odd, but it's become very iconic as far as, that picture in tape with Arteta and Eze, Rice and Saka and all these kind of things and the scenes outside the Emirates. It's all become very iconic. I do enjoy the other team fans really trying to downplay it. Where they're like, it's so weird, like they've won the league and you wouldn't know, and it's like you're just lying to yourself. It's everywhere. We've got that kind of iconic night and days afterwards, and we kind of forget that the actual iconic moment is lifting it, having Odegaard. And I don't know if he gets, someone else to hold it with him because obviously he missed a lot of time. And is it him and Gabriel? Is it him and Saka? I don't know. But that iconic shot you get sometimes, do you see on Match of the Day for the next year or Premiership years or in some cases, Tops Now cards. And there's so many things, and that shot will be remembered. We all can kind of imagine the Invincibles when Vieira lifted it, our Highbury. We remember that scene, don't we? You can kind of vividly see it in your head, the way it was shot, the way they kind of get underneath and look up and you see the sky. And we're about to get that, and every player is going to get to lift the Premier League trophy. And as I've kind of looked back this week in my head of like, it's mad because we have got to enjoy winning a lot of trophies, and we've had this kind of feeling of excitement quite a lot actually. But you think of the drought or so-and-so drought between 05 FA Cup, obviously Invincible 06, 04, FA Cup win in 05, Champions League defeat 06, then nothing. And then 2014, I think FA Cup, and then we won 3 in 4 years, and then we won again in 2020. It's been another 6 years since we've lifted a trophy. I know we've had good days out at Wembley with the Community Shield. So we've got to experience that kind of running around the field with a trophy in our hands. We've seen it with the Carabao, the Community Shield a couple of times recently and the FA Cup, but everything else is a little bit more kind of assigned to history. But we forget that as much as I love the FA Cup, and I think it is a massive trophy, winning the Premier League and the size of that trophy and just the way it looks is so iconic, and not many players lift that one. FA Cup can sometimes be held by people that you don't expect. The Premier League doesn't. The Premier League is the best of the best, and those players get to lift that. And I'm sure they just want the game out of the way so they can lift it, and they get the pictures. And like I said, Fashion FC, I'm sure they've all got their ideas for photos they need to get and outfits they're going to wear and all sorts like that, because that's the way they are, and we accept that and we're happy with that. And then also once that day's over, we can kind of have an amazing Sunday night, and we can enjoy this now, because think how different this would be if City scored again. The fear, because I was starting to realise I don't think I could have dealt with it, because Palace maybe play a slightly stronger team, we panic, we get to 60 minutes, we can't score, City are 4-0 up, and we're thinking, oh boy. And we're now seeing what Villa team they would have faced, and it's quite alarming. So I'm so glad it's this way, and we can just enjoy it, and enjoy waiting for the presentation and the matches, whatever it is. I still want to win. I really do want to win. I really want to hit 85 points. Just for the history of, like I said, stats don't hold up sometimes because they're skewed by things. For example, people go, "Oh, last year Liverpool only got a certain amount of points." Yeah, because they just didn't play for 3 weeks. They went on holiday mid-season and just started losing games. I'm sure they would hit 90+ points. Same for past season, but this Man United team only won 86 points, or this Arsenal team only won it with 84 points, or whatever it is, and you're like, well, yeah, because they won it. They stopped playing, so these things are skewed. But I really do want to win just because I think optics of looking back, 85 points, I'm alright with that. It's not the lowest. It's 5 points off 90. It's not too bad. And I'd like to see some players kind of play themselves into form and get ready for the Champions League. Obviously, right now, just praying no injuries, touch wood, get through it, clean bill of health would be great. Seeing a bit of Timber and Moreno play would be great just to add to that kind of depth again. And just getting to see some of the, there's guys that have been there since the start, like Gabriel, Saliba, Saka, I'm going to say Odegaard. Those guys have just been there so long. They've been a part of this whole process for so long. Ben White, I want to see them lift it because they've kind of come up short 3 times and they finally get it. And I especially want to see those guys. People like Norgard as well, who've just been such a team player this year. Seeing him lifting it, he's a Premier League winner, and I love that. But yeah, that's the game. And I think as soon as Monday morning rolls around, and obviously I'll be back on Gunners Rush on Monday. I think we'll talk probably about obviously what we saw and how iconic it was, and then focus just going to swiftly move to Champions League because it goes from domestic to Europe very quickly, and starting to talk about what kind of team are we going against, what kind of team are we going to put out, how are we going to play it, where's the pressure. Also, Arsenal fans taking over Budapest. It's going to be great to see as the week goes on and get kind of super excited for what could be coming. So I'm very excited for the week ahead. And I mean, we've dreamt of this kind of situation. This is Saturday. All the games are tomorrow. The league's wrapped up. Just waiting to see him lift it. So it's genuinely what we've been waiting for years to enjoy. So enjoy this game for what it is, and enjoy the trophy, and then enjoy the 7-day build or 6-day, 5-day build, whatever it's going to be, to the Champions League final, because you don't know how often these come around. We don't know when we're going to lift the Premier League trophy again. We don't know if we're ever going to get to a Champions League final again. So we've got to enjoy it, take it for what it is, and support Gunners R Us, obviously. Go to iTunes, Spotify, goes 5-star review. Patreon is linked below. This is free on iTunes and Spotify today because I'm just trying to build some steam for the Patreon. So I just want you to know what you're getting over on the Patreon and how regularly. So I put a couple of the Patreons up here on iTunes and Spotify. If you like it, please do click the link below and sign up to the Patreon where you get more episodes. And once a month we raffle off a Arsenal graded card to our listeners, and these cards could again be worth massive money one day. So please do that. And in the meantime, enjoy the weekend, and I'll see you on Monday. Bye bye.